Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty huge, actually. It's a question that I think is facing, well, pretty much every leader out there right now. This
Well,
technology just keeps accelerating. Automating tasks, analyzing data, running supply chains, sometimes even doing complex analysis better than we can. What's actually left for the human leader?
it really forces a fundamental rethink, doesn't it? It's like the ground rules are changing.
Yeah.
We're moving away from managing the systems because, let's face it, the algorithms are often better at that.
Right, faster, cheaper, more consistent.
Exactly. So the pivot has to be towards leading the human side of things.
Mhm.
And what's fascinating, looking at the sources for this deep dive, they're really diverse. We've got ancient philosophy, military strategy, modern corporate
A
culture,
real mix.
a real mix, but they all seem to point towards the same core things, skills that, well, you just can't automate. Creativity, real critical thinking, and that crucial element of emotional connection. And, importantly, character.
That's the shift we have to internalize, isn't it? When the system basically runs itself, your value isn't in tweaking the process perfectly.
Nope, the machine's got that covered.
Your value is in the stuff the machine can't do. Inspiring people, dealing with real ambiguity, the messy stuff, creating cultures where it's okay to try things and maybe fail, and holding on to that ethical center. Algorithms don't have ethics.
Perfectly put, the machine optimizes the known. The leader has to navigate the unknown, the ambiguous. Things like motivation, belief, trust. So the big question for you listening today really is, when the systems are humming along, what do you need to deliberately focus on?
Yeah, what's the work only you can do?
And that work seems to be cultivating the people, the culture, because that's where the real advantage is going to be. That's what the automated systems are ultimately serving.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Where do we start? Our sources seem to argue pretty strongly that it begins, well, inside, with the leader themselves.
Exactly. It's not about some new management technique you pick up at a seminar. It's deeper. It's about self-knowledge, about internal mastery. The idea is that effective external leadership really has to start from a place of internal clarity.
Which makes sense. You can't lead others through chaos if you're chaotic inside.
Precisely. And this ties into foundational ideas about self-control, effectiveness. You see this in thinkers like Stephen Covey, and maybe even more profoundly, Viktor Frankl.
Right. Covey's point about responsibility, that we're ultimately responsible for our own effectiveness, our circumstances.
Yes, and he has this warning, doesn't he, about exercising our embryonic freedom.
Yeah.
If we don't consciously choose how we respond, day in and day out,
We end up just reacting.
we end up being lived by external scripts. What the environment dictates, what social media pushes, what other people demand. We lose that agency.
And Frankl, his insights are just staggering, especially given where they came from.
Absolutely. I mean, writing about finding meaning and freedom inside a concentration camp, it's almost unimaginable. But he observed that even when everything else was stripped away, that one final freedom remained. The freedom to choose your attitude, to maintain your inner self,
That's the core, isn't it? That non-automatable choice.
an internal spiritual choice. Frankl saw that if you stopped fighting, if you just let the external circumstances dictate your inner state, you lost that sense of being a person with freedom and values. You became predictable, reactive.
Which, for a leader today facing market shifts, disruptions, being purely reactive is basically becoming obsolete, right? The system can react faster.
Exactly. A reactive leader is just another input. You need that internal stability, that ability to choose your response, to choose meaning.
And this idea of choosing meaning, Frankl saw as an antidote to that sense of emptiness, didn't he? Logotherapy.
Yes, his logotherapy. It's not about inventing meaning out of thin air, but about detecting it, finding your unique mission or purpose in life in your specific circumstances.
Why is that so important?
Well, Frankl believed that this feeling of meaninglessness, what he termed the existential vacuum, was actually at the root of a lot of modern problems. Burnout, anxiety, even in high achievers in big companies.
With the sense that it's all pointless.
Kind of, yeah. So logotherapy tries to shift your focus outwards, towards simple things, actions you can take, relationships, appreciating beauty, maybe realizing you have a unique responsibility to someone or something.
So for a leader, being able to connect their team's work, even the day-to-day stuff, to some larger detected purpose, that's providing something invaluable.
Absolutely. Something no KPI dashboard can capture. It answers the why.
Shifting gears slightly, Emerson offers a surprisingly simple take on maintaining this inner health.
Yeah, Emerson's quite refreshing, isn't he? He basically says, stop making things harder than they need to be.
Huh. Like importing unnecessary difficulties.
Exactly. He specifically points fingers at things like complex theological debates. He calls them the soul's mumps and measles.
Hmm.
Basically baggage we don't need that just clouds our thinking.
So his advice.
Live simply. Connect with nature. Focus on what actually belongs to your mission, your task. Don't get bogged down in problems that aren't yours to solve.
I really like that, especially now. We're drowning in information, opinions, complexity.
We really are. Emerson suggests a strong character doesn't need all that. It just needs a few strong instincts and a few plain rules. It's almost a radical simplicity.
A rejection of the overwhelming noise technology enables.
And building that kind of simple, strong internal structure isn't a one-off thing. It requires ongoing discipline. If we look east, the Bhagavad Gita really emphasizes this.
You mean the idea of tapasya? Austerity.
Yes, tapasya.
Hmm.
It's presented as absolutely essential, a continuous practice throughout life. It's not about just checking out or avoiding responsibility.
Right. The Gita mentions the 4 stages of life: student, householder, retired, renounced.
Exactly. And the point isn't that you only practice self-refinement in one stage. It's a lifelong process, structured according to where you are. You don't artificially give up your duties, become a so-called yogi, just sitting around.
So whether you're a student or a CEO.
You practice austerity appropriate to your role. Austerity of the body, sure, but also the mind, and, crucially, the tongue. Rigorously controlling how you think, how you speak, how you show up.
That internal discipline is the path to clarity, to effective leadership. You can't just think your way there.
No speculation involved. It requires practice to patsialya.
And when that inner territory is solid, disciplined, it shows, doesn't it? It manifests as character. Which brings us back to Covey.
Ah, yes, Covey's powerful line. What you are shouts so loudly in my ears that I cannot hear what you say.
That just nails it. It's the core of his character ethic versus the personality ethic.
Absolutely. All the slick presentation skills, the communication techniques, they fall flat if the underlying character isn't there, if there's no trust.
Because trust isn't built on technique.
It's built on integrity, on who you are deep down. We sense it. The techniques are secondary if the foundation is solid.
Brené Brown takes this idea of internal strength and connects it to our personal stories, right? The idea of owning them.
Yes, owning our stories, all of them. The successes, sure, but also the messy parts, the failures, the difficult emotions that come with them.
Why is owning the story so important for a leader?
Because if you don't own your story, if you deny it, pretend parts didn't happen, avoid the tough feelings, then the story owns you. It drives your reactions, your decisions, often without you even realizing it.
It becomes an unconscious script.
Exactly. And in a world demanding authenticity, which human leadership absolutely does, you have to be willing to look inward. Understand your own triggers, your vulnerabilities, share them appropriately even. That's how you build real trust.
And that level of authenticity, that inner grounding,
Yeah.
it seems directly linked to Robert Greenleaf's concept of the servant leader.
Ah, yes. The servant first leader. It's a critical distinction he makes.
It starts with the desire to serve.
Yes, a natural feeling, an intrinsic desire to serve others first. That comes before the conscious decision to lead.
As opposed to the leader first type.
Right. The leader first might be driven more by power or status or money. They might choose to serve later, but only after they've secured their position. Greenleaf was really clear. The servant leader, the one motivated by genuine service and empathy.
They're actually more effective.
Functionally superior, he argued, because people follow them out of dedication to a shared purpose, not just for a paycheck or a fear. And that kind of commitment, you absolutely cannot automate that.
Okay, so we've established the need for that inner discipline in the leader. Now, how does that translate outward? How does a leader create an organization, a culture, where the uniquely human stuff, like creativity, can actually flourish?
Yeah, this is where it gets really practical. Because fostering creativity means embracing messiness, uncertainty, and inevitably failure, which requires a huge amount of trust.
And the Pixar model is a fascinating case study here, isn't it? They seem to have intentionally engineered their culture for this.
They really did. It's quite remarkable. They operated on essentially 2 core mantras. The first was story is king.
Meaning the narrative, the quality of the film itself, trumped everything else.
Everything. Technology, big-name actors, merchandising potential.
Yeah.
The story came first, always. The second mantra was trust the process.
What did that mean in practice?
It was about having faith in their collaborative system, especially during the tough times. Every creative project hits that messy, difficult middle phase where things feel like they're falling apart. Trust the process was their way of saying, stick with it. The system is designed to get us through this.
And they learned about the importance of aiming high, the hard way, with Toy Story, too.
Oh, absolutely. That was a pivotal moment. The initial plan was to make it a cheaper direct-to-video sequel.
Which sounds efficient, maybe?
On paper, perhaps. But they quickly realized it was a disaster. Not just financially, but culturally.
How so?
Ed Catmull, one of Pixar's founders, saw that aiming low fundamentally changed the team's mindset. It forced them to cut corners, to compromise on quality. Morale plummeted.
And it created divisions.
Huge divisions. Suddenly you had the A team working on the prestigious theatrical releases and the B team stuck on the lower status video project. That kind of internal hierarchy is poison for a creative culture built on trust and collaboration.
So they had to backtrack.
Completely.
Yeah.
They basically had to admit the mistake, scrap the direct-to-video plan, and restart the film from scratch as a full theatrical release to heal that cultural damage. It was a painful, expensive lesson.
It really underscores that if you want innovation, you have to make peace with failure. You have to see it as part of the process, not something to be hidden or punished.
Exactly. And our sources point out that fear is the enemy here. Fear thrives when managers hate surprises, when they demand endless pre-meetings just to control everything.
Creating that walking on eggshells environment.
Right, where people are more focused on protecting the manager's ego than on solving the actual problems.
So what's the antidote?
Trust. Plain and simple. And trust isn't built overnight. It's demonstrated consistently over time. And the most critical way leaders demonstrate it is how they respond when things go wrong.
When failure happens.
Yes. Do they blame? Do they hide it? Or do they treat it as data, as a learning opportunity? If they reward candor, even when the news is bad, trust grows. Problems get surfaced early when they're still fixable.
Which leads us directly to the brain trust at Pixar. This wasn't just any feedback meeting, was it?
Not at all. It was a very specific, carefully designed mechanism for getting candid feedback. But it was built on a foundation of empathy and a shared goal. Make the film better, not tear down the director.
Who was in the brain trust?
It was typically other directors and senior creative leads, people who understood the immense pressure and difficulty of making these films. Crucially, while top leadership like Catmull or John Lasseter could attend,
They didn't have the final say.
they couldn't mandate changes. Their notes were just suggestions, same as anyone else's. That was key for psychological safety. The director always retained ownership.
And there were rules about the feedback itself. What made a good note?
Yes, they were quite specific about this. A good note needs to pinpoint the problem. What's not working? What's missing? Why is something confusing? It needs to be timely given while there's still energy to fix it, and it has to be specific.
Not just, I didn't like it.
Exactly. Vague negativity is useless. And crucially, a good note doesn't prescribe the solution. It might illustrate a potential fix, like maybe if the character did X here, but it doesn't demand it.
Because that would take away ownership.
Precisely. It also avoids those unhelpful platitudes like, I'm bored, or her dress looks wrong. That doesn't help the creator. Andrew Stanton said the goal is to act like a great teacher. Find that one insight, that one question.
That makes the creator's eyes pop.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes them want to go back and rework it. It transforms criticism into an inspiring challenge. It's about constructing while criticizing. A very human art.
That level of candor is hard, though, especially when emotions run high. What about those crucial conversations where things get heated?
Yeah, the sources on crucial conversations highlight this. When a discussion starts to feel unsafe, people shutting down or getting aggressive, you have to stop talking about the content for a moment.
And focus on?
The intent. Why is safety breaking down? People usually get defensive, not because of what was said, but because of the motive they perceive behind it. They feel attacked, misunderstood, disrespected.
So you need to rebuild that safety.
Immediately, step out of the argument, clarify your positive intent, reinforce your shared goal. Look, I'm bringing this up because I respect your work and we both want this project to succeed, right? That kind of thing.
That makes sense. And related to feedback, some coaching methods advise against asking why questions too much.
Yes, the coaching habit source points this out. Why? Questions can often feel accusatory. Why did you do that? Sounds like, what were you thinking?
Puts people on the defensive.
Instantly. And it often pushes them to justify the past or jump to a solution too quickly instead of really thinking. The suggestion is to stick with what questions. What's the real challenge here for you? What options are you considering? What do you want to achieve? It keeps the focus on exploration and forward movement
Mm.
and helps avoid the leader falling into the trap of just solving everything for their team.
Builds capability instead of dependence.
Exactly. But achieving this level of useful, sometimes painful, candor is tough, even at Pixar, with all their systems. There's that anecdote about John Lasseter asking for anonymous feedback.
And he got quite a bit back.
2.5 pages. Pretty critical stuff. Things like his time management being so tight that people felt rushed, over-prepared, just not to waste his time.
Okay, that's tough feedback.
But maybe the most impactful was that he carried the stress or emotion from one meeting into the next. So people in the next meeting would feel this negative vibe and think, uh-oh, what did we do wrong? Even if it had nothing to do with them.
Wow. How did he take that?
He admitted it was really hard to read, a blow to the ego, but he also said it was incredibly valuable. It helped him see his impact and change his behavior, which benefited everyone.
That really shows it, doesn't it? Real organizational improvement requires leaders to swallow their pride sometimes and welcome that difficult honesty.
For the greater good. An algorithm can track metrics, but it takes a human leader with real character to handle the ego-bruising truth needed to actually get better.
Okay, so we have the inner clarity, we have the culture of trust and creativity. Now let's turn outwards to dealing with the messy, unpredictable world. The constant change, the complexity. This is where human judgment really has to step up beyond what any algorithm can do.
Absolutely. And the first hurdle is often just accepting that change is inevitable, even desirable. Ed Catmull learned this one too. After Pixar merged with Disney, he initially tried to reassure everyone by saying Pixar would not change.
Which sounds nice, but unrealistic.
Totally unrealistic. He had to backtrack and give the, actually, yes, of course we will continue to change, speech multiple times before it really landed. Change wasn't the enemy. Stagnation was.
So they had to find ways to embrace change strategically.
Yes. Like realizing they needed a mix. They needed to make those big, profitable sequels.
Toy Story 3 or Finding Dory.
Right. Because the success of those sequels gave them the financial cushion, the breathing room, to take big creative risks on completely original, sometimes weird new ideas. One funded the other. It was about balancing stability and risk.
Which requires real strategic thinking and sometimes letting go of the past, like Andy Grove at Intel.
Oh, the Intel story is classic. They were facing what Grove called a strategic inflection point. For years, Intel was memory chips. That was their identity. But the market had shifted. Competition was brutal.
And they were losing badly.
Terribly. They were stuck, emotionally attached to their past success. Grove said the breakthrough came when he asked his co-founder, Gordon Moore, if we got kicked out and the board brought in a new CEO, what do you think he would do?
And the answer was obvious.
Moore instantly said he would get us out of memories. And Grove replied, why shouldn't you and I walk out the door, come back in, and do it ourselves?
Wow, adopting that outsider's objectivity.
Exactly. They had to intellectually detach from their history, their emotional baggage, look at the data cold, and make the incredibly painful decision to abandon the business that had defined them.
That's a level of strategic clarity automation can't provide. It can give you the data, but not the courage to act on it against your own history.
Precisely. And this kind of ruthless focus is echoed in Jim Collins's work with the hedgehog concept.
Right, the 3 circles. What you're passionate about, what drives your economics, and what you can be the best in the world at.
Yes. Collins argues that sustained greatness comes from finding the intersection of those 3 circles and then sticking to it with, as he says, fanatical adherence.
Meaning you say no.
A lot. A lot. You actively shun opportunities, even those once-in-a-lifetime chances, if they fall outside your hedgehog concept. It requires incredible discipline.
So the focus isn't just on doing more, but on stopping things.
Collins emphasizes that creating a stop-doing list is often far more critical for success than adding more to your to-do list. It's about focus, about conserving energy for what truly matters.
Speaking of finding what matters, Nassim Nicholas Taleb talks about serendipity, right? How discovery often happens by accident, especially in complex systems.
Yes, Taleb's concept of anti-fragility comes into play here. He points out that in complex fields like drug discovery, breakthroughs often come from unexpected places.
Like finding a side effect is actually a cure for something else.
Exactly. Private industry finds most new drugs, he argues, often because they stumble upon something valuable while looking for something else entirely. A non-cancer drug suddenly shows promise against cancer. That's gaining from disorder, from the unexpected.
And he critiques researchers who ignore those happy accidents.
He does. He criticizes the mindset, sometimes found in academia, where a valuable discovery might be dismissed simply because it doesn't fit the original research grant or the planned experiment.
Which is illogical, really.
It's a failure to recognize value when it appears outside the expected script. An automated system follows the script. A human leader needs the flexibility, the awareness, to see potential value, especially when it deviates from the plan.
Okay, so we need strategic focus, but also openness to the unexpected. And when facing that external chaos, decisiveness becomes critical. Sun Tzu's point.
Rapidity is the essence of war. Absolutely.
Mm.
In high-stakes situations, hesitation can be fatal. Opportunities are fleeting. You need to be able to assess and act quickly, sometimes with startling suddenness, as he puts it.
But speed without direction is just flailing. The SEAL's sources emphasize linking decisiveness with ownership and clarity.
Critically important. It's not enough to just bark orders. Leaders, especially in those high-stress environments, have to explain the why, clearly, concisely.
So the team understands the mission's purpose.
And believes in it.
Yeah.
Because it's that belief, that internalized understanding of the why, that keeps people going when things inevitably get tough, when challenges pile up. And they always do, whether in combat or business.
And they need that belief because humans mess up. The sources give some pretty stark examples from combat.
Extremely stark. They talk about Iraqi soldiers under immense pressure, doing things that seem almost incomprehensible, firing weapons accidentally near friendlies, running away from a fight while firing wildly, even abandoning a wounded comrade in panic.
Actions that are not just mistakes, but incredibly dangerous.
Potentially fatal. Yet, the leadership lesson there is that even in the face of such profound human error, the leaders can't just throw up their hands. They have to own the problem, maintain standards, reinforce the mission constantly.
You can't just write a procedure first.
No manual covers that level of human failing under pressure. And the counterexample, the two SEALs who ran back into heavy fire to rescue that abandoned soldier, that shows the other side, that extreme commitment that leadership inspires.
Which links directly to Patrick Lencioni's work on teams, especially the need for accountability.
Yes. Lencioni sees accountability as the capstone of high-performing teams, built on trust and healthy conflict. If a team avoids holding members accountable,
It breeds mediocrity.
worse than that,
Yep.
it misses deadlines, quality drops, and worst of all, it creates deep resentment among the high performers who feel they're carrying the load for others.
Whereas a healthy team,
They hold each other accountable, peer to peer. They question each other's approaches, not to attack, but to get to the best solution faster. Poor performers feel the pressure to improve, and problems get identified and solved quickly.
that's a cultural thing driven by leadership character, not just rules.
Absolutely. It's about creating an environment where that kind of productive, direct feedback is expected and valued. That's human leadership, not process management.
So for our final section, we're moving into what feels like the highest level of this non-automatable leadership. Things rooted in ethics, in morality, justice, purpose, the common good. This feels like the ultimate human domain.
It really does. This is where the technology serves the human vision, not the other way around. And Cicero, drawing on Stoic philosophy, gives us a really strong anchor here. He defines courage.
Not just as bravery.
No, not just bravery or boldness. Courage, for the Stoics, was a virtue that fights for what is right. Courage without justice, Cicero warns, is just savagery, audacity, not true courage.
So for a leader, the drive, the ambition, it has to be channeled ethically.
It must be. He argues quite powerfully that anyone who seeks success or fame through deceit, treachery, breaking promises, they haven't actually won the prize they sought. They might get the position, the power, but they've forfeited their moral standing, their true reputation.
That rings true. He talks about the difficulty of staying fair when you really want to be number one.
Yes, the temptation of ambition. How the desire for preeminence can push leaders towards actions that are fundamentally unjust. He uses the historical example of Marius.
The Roman general.
Yes, as praetor, Marius apparently rushed to announce a decree himself, cutting out his colleagues just to grab the popularity and credit.
It worked in the short term. He got elected consul.
He did. But Cicero uses it as a cautionary tale. There's a supreme rule, he insists, for making decisions. Either what seems beneficial must not be morally wrong, or if it is wrong, it must not be presented as beneficial or expedient.
You can't justify injustice by claiming it was necessary for success.
Never. The truly great leader, the great soul, as Cicero puts it, chooses to be chief through character and service, Rather than just seeming to be chief to manipulation or popular appeal, they rely on an internal moral compass, not shifting public opinion.
And this ethical leadership extends beyond personal gain to the whole group. Plato and Rousseau talk about the common good.
They both stress this. Leaders have two core duties: look after the well-being of all citizens, forgetting their own private interests, and care for the whole body politic, not just one faction or favored group.
Because favoring one part leads to division.
Exactly. It sows discord and sedition. Rousseau makes a crucial distinction here between ruling a society and just controlling a crowd.
What's the difference?
A subdued crowd is just a collection of individuals under one person's power. An aggregation, he calls it. There's no shared public good, no real body politic. A true society, an association, requires a leader who fosters that shared good, that voluntary connection based on mutual well-being.
That requires building something, not just commanding it.
It requires ethical association, and that has to be communicated. Transparency and purpose become really important. Unilever's Net Positive initiative seems like a modern example of trying to do this.
That's so.
They actively train employees to connect their own personal sense of purpose with the company's stated goals. The idea is to equip them to handle those tough questions they might get from friends or family.
Like, why does Unilever still use so much plastic? Or what about labor conditions in the supply chain?
Exactly, those hard, ethical questions. The company realized that answering them requires more than just a memo from HR. It needs ongoing, consistent communication from the very top leadership, constantly reinforcing the themes of purpose alongside performance.
It can't just be a one-off campaign.
No. Former CEO Paul Pullman apparently wrote a blog reinforcing these themes every week for 10 years. Purpose only works if it's lived, constantly communicated, and can stand up to scrutiny.
And this idea, scrutiny, of critical thinking, it's the opposite of just following orders, the opposite of what you'd want from an easily managed asset. Frederick Douglass's story is so powerful here.
Incredibly powerful. When his master, Mr. Auld, found out Mrs. Auld was teaching Douglass to read, he forbade it immediately. And his reason?
Was that learning would forever unfit him to be a slave.
Exactly. That it would make him unmanageable and of no value as a slave. For Douglass, that was a lightning bolt moment. He instantly understood that education, critical thinking, that unmanageable quality, that was the path to freedom.
It's such a stark illustration. The very thing the master feared, critical intelligence, was the source of true human value.
And for the modern leader, it's a reminder that your most valuable people might not be the most compliant. They might be the ones who question, who challenge, who think critically. That's the non-automatable value.
Which brings us nicely to John C. Maxwell's point about the real bottom line of leadership.
Yeah, Maxwell cuts right to it. He says the ultimate measure isn't how far we advance ourselves, our careers, our status, but how far we advance others. By serving them, by adding value to their lives. Every interaction a leader has is making people either better or worse. There's no neutral ground.
And that requires sacrifice.
Inevitably. True leadership isn't just about the perks. It involves giving things up, time, hobbies, sometimes relocating, sometimes making incredibly difficult decisions that carry personal cost. It's an ongoing investment, not a rank you achieve and then coast. It's a continuous act of service and, yes, sacrifice.
So wrapping this all up, it feels like we've traced a clear path. As automation takes over the predictable, the process-driven work, the leader's role fundamentally shifts.
It absolutely has to. Away from controlling the process and entirely towards cultivating the human element, managing ambiguity, fostering creativity and trust, upholding that ethical core. The value moves from the hands doing the tasks to the heart and mind leading the people.
If the future really demands this adaptability, this anti-fragility, Taleb talks about being able to handle disorder, spot those unexpected opportunities, lead complex collaborations when the path isn't clear.
Then the best preparation isn't just learning the next software. It's the deep, often difficult, lifelong work of developing your own character. That's what allows you to guide the technology wisely and ethically.
Character, backed by candor, grounded in justice. That's the skill set automation can't touch.
So the final thought for you, our listener, is this. In a world increasingly run by algorithms, how are you actively, consciously building what we might call your inner fortress?
Through that self-knowledge Frankl talked about, Emerson's simplicity, Cicero's focus on justice.
Exactly. How are you strengthening that internal core so that you remain capable of leading the truly complex, unpredictable human work that the systems around you simply cannot handle? Because ultimately, that inner work is the only real safeguard against obsolescence.